My name is Robert. I'm 91 years old. I've been married to my wife Margaret for 65 years, and I need to tell you something before we go any further. Something I wish somebody had pulled me aside and told me back in 1959 when I was standing at that altar, 22 years old, thinking I had it all figured out. These 65 years, they weren't easy. There were years, honestly, where we came very close to walking away. Years where we sat across from each other at the kitchen table and wondered if we'd made a terrible mistake. People see us now, see how long we've been together, and they assume it's been some kind of fairy tale. They think we just naturally knew how to be married. We didn't. We made 7 big mistakes. The kind that hollow out a marriage from the inside, the kind that turn two people who loved each other into strangers living in the same house. And if you're married right now, or thinking about getting married, I can almost guarantee you're making at least 3 of these mistakes. Maybe all 7. I know because I see younger couples, people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and they're doing exactly what we did. And I want to grab them by the shoulders and say, stop. You're heading toward 20 years of unnecessary pain. But let me start at the beginning. Mistake number 1. We let our marriage run on autopilot. Margaret and I got married in August of 1959. I was working at the post office. She was a teacher. And for the first couple years, we were in love. We'd stay up late talking. We'd drive out to the lake on Sundays. We paid attention to each other. But then I got promoted to supervisor. We bought our first house. The kids came along, 2 boys and a girl, and suddenly life was just busy. I'd come home from work around 6:30. Margaret would have dinner ready. We'd eat. She'd clean up. I'd help the kids with homework. We'd watch some TV, go to bed. Same thing the next day, and the next. Somewhere around year 12, I realized we hadn't had a real conversation in weeks, maybe months. I remember one Saturday morning, Margaret was making breakfast, and I looked at her and thought, when did she start wearing her hair like that? Turned out she'd cut it 3 weeks earlier. 3 weeks. I'd seen her every single day and hadn't noticed. That's when I understood. We weren't living together. We were just existing in the same space. And here's what happens when you let a marriage run on autopilot. It doesn't stay the same. It gets worse. Slowly, so slowly you don't see it happening. What changed for us? Our neighbor, Tom, he got divorced after 28 years, and he told me, Bob, we just stopped trying, and once you stop trying, you're done. That scared me, so I started trying again. First thing we did, we started having what we call check-in time every Sunday evening, just 20 minutes. We sit down, no TV, no distractions. And we ask each other 3 questions. How did you feel this week? Is there anything I did that hurt you? What's one thing I can do better next week? Now, even at 87, every morning I ask Margaret what she's thinking about. Not what's your schedule today, what's on her mind, what she's feeling. Sounds simple, right? But it keeps the small things from becoming big things. Mistake number 2. We turned into opponents instead of partners. This one nearly destroyed us. For years, Margaret and we'd argue about everything. And I mean everything. How to discipline the kids, how to spend money, where to go on vacation, what color to paint the living room. Every disagreement felt like a battle, like one of us had to win and one had to lose. I remember this argument we had. Must have been 1974 or so. Our oldest son wanted to quit the baseball team. I said no. Margaret said we should let him. We fought about it for 2 weeks. Not discussed it. Fought. I'd present my reasons. She'd counter. I'd get louder. She'd dig in. Back and forth. And you know what the real problem was? We'd both forgotten we wanted the same thing. We both wanted what was best for our son, but instead of working together to figure out what that was, we were trying to defeat each other. That's what happens in a marriage when you become opponents. Every issue becomes a competition. Every conversation becomes a debate. What finally woke me up was when Margaret said something to me. We were arguing about something, I don't even remember what, and she just stopped mid-sentence and said, "Bob, when did we become enemies?" And I had no answer. We weren't enemies, but we were acting like we were. From that day on, we made a rule. Before any big decision, we say to each other, we're on the same team. We both want the same thing. Let's figure this out together. Sounds corny, maybe, but it works. Mistake number 3. We thought saying nothing was keeping the peace. Margaret is, she's a quiet person. Always has been. She doesn't like conflict. So for years, when something bothered her, she wouldn't say anything. And I thought that meant everything was fine. It wasn't fine. She'd be hurt by something I said or did, and instead of telling me, she'd just absorb it, hold it inside, tell herself it wasn't a big deal, but it was a big deal to her. I remember in 1982, we went to my company Christmas party, and I spent the whole night talking to my co-workers, barely said 2 words to Margaret. At the end of the night, I asked her if she had a good time. She said it was fine. 20 years later, she told me that night was one of the loneliest nights of her life. She'd felt invisible, like I was ashamed to be with her. 20 years she carried that, because she didn't want to start a fight. And I had no idea. Here's what I learned. Silence doesn't keep the peace, it just lets resentment build. And resentment is like termites in your house. You don't see the damage until it's too late. Now, when Margaret seems quiet, I ask her, "What's going on? Talk to me." And when something bothers me, I say it. Not in anger, but honestly. That hurt my feelings. I need to tell you something that's been on my mind. The difficult conversations, they're actually the ones that save your marriage. Mistake number 4, we assumed love was enough. When Margaret and I got married, I thought, I love her, she loves me, that's all we need. And for a while, maybe it was. But love isn't like gasoline in a car. It's not something you fill up once and then just coast on forever. Love is more like a garden. If you don't water it, don't pull the weeds, don't tend to it, it dies. Around year 30, I started taking Margaret for granted. I'd forget to tell her I loved her, forget to do the little things, forget anniversaries, not because I didn't love her, but because I assumed she knew. One year, I completely forgot our anniversary, 32 years of marriage, and I forgot. I came home from work, normal day, and Margaret was sitting at the kitchen table with tears in her eyes. She didn't yell, she just said, "Bob, do you even care anymore?" And that broke me, because of course I cared. I loved her more than anything, but I hadn't shown it, And what you don't express eventually becomes invisible. I started doing things differently after that. Every morning, I tell her I love her. Every week, I do something to show it. Flowers, a note, her favorite candy bar from the store. We reinstated date night. Every other Friday, no exceptions. Doesn't have to be fancy. Last week we drove to Dairy Queen, got ice cream, sat in the parking lot talking for an hour. But it's time that's just for us. Not about the bills, not about the kids, not about problems, just us. Small things, but they add up. Love isn't enough on its own. You have to feed it every single day. Mistake number 5. We held on to grudges. I'm not proud of this one. For years, if Margaret did something that hurt me, I'd forgive her with my words. It's okay, I forgive you. But I'd remember it, store it away. And then, 6 months later, a year later, if we were arguing about something else, I'd bring it up. Well, what about when you did X? Remember when you said Y? I weaponized the past. And Margaret did it too. We both did. The worst one was from 1976. We were saving up for a vacation. Margaret wanted to visit her sister in Oregon. I wanted to go fishing in Montana. We'd been planning for months. Had about $800 saved. Then our car broke down. Needed a new transmission. $1,500. I insisted we use the vacation money and put the rest on credit. Margaret wanted to use credit for the whole thing and still take the vacation. We didn't take the vacation that year, and Margaret brought it up for the next 30 years. 30 years. Remember when you made us cancel Oregon? Every argument, there it was. And I did the same thing to her about other things. What I finally understood is this. Every time you bring up the past, you're reopening the wound. You're making it impossible for the relationship to heal. One day, Margaret and I sat down and made a list. Everything we were still holding on to. Every grudge, every old hurt. And we went through them one by one. And we forgave them, actually forgave them, said them out loud and let them go. It was one of the hardest things we ever did, but it freed us. Mistake number 6. We stopped learning who the other person was becoming. Here's something nobody tells you about marriage. The person you marry at 25 is not the same person at 45 or 65. People grow, they change, their fears change, their dreams change, what makes them happy changes. And if you stop paying attention, you wake up one day married to someone you don't actually know anymore. I thought I knew Margaret. We'd been married 40 years, but then her father died and she went through something I'd never seen in her before. She started questioning everything. Her faith, the meaning of her life, whether she'd wasted her time. And when she tried to talk to me about it, I said, "You're just grieving, you'll feel better soon." I dismissed her because it made me uncomfortable, because I didn't know how to handle it. She never tried to talk to me about it again. It took our daughter sitting me down and saying, "Dad, Mom's going through something, and she needs you to actually listen. Not fix it, just listen." That's when I realized I'd stopped being curious about who Margaret was. I'd assumed I knew her completely, and I'd missed years of her inner life. Now I ask her questions, real questions. What's been on your mind lately? What are you hoping for? What are you afraid of? And I listen. Really listen, because the person you married is constantly becoming someone new, And if you don't keep learning who they are, you'll lose them. Mistake number 7. We put everything else first. For most of our marriage, Margaret and I, we put everything before us. The kids, the bills, the house, the job, the church, everything. Our marriage was what got the leftovers, the scraps of time and energy after everything else was taken care of. And for years we told ourselves that's what you're supposed to do. You sacrifice for your kids, you work hard to provide, you take care of your responsibilities. And that's true, you do those things, but not at the expense of your marriage. I remember our youngest was maybe 15, and Margaret wanted to go away for the weekend, just the two of us. And I said, we can't leave the kids. They were 15, 17, and 19. They didn't need us for a weekend. But I said no, because I thought being a good parent meant always being there. What I didn't realize was that the best thing I could do for my kids was have a strong marriage with their mother. By the time our youngest left for college, Margaret and I had been living like roommates for so long, we didn't know how to be husband and wife anymore. We had to relearn each other, relearn how to be together without the kids as a buffer. It wasn't easy, but we did it. Now we put each other first, not because the kids don't matter, but because our marriage is the foundation everything else is built on. If the foundation crumbles, everything crumbles. So after 65 years, what do I know? Marriage is a choice, every single day. Some days easy, some days the hardest thing in the world. It's not about finding the perfect person. It's about choosing to love an imperfect person perfectly. And the small moments matter more than the big ones. Not the wedding day, but the Sunday mornings on the porch with coffee, those quiet moments. That's what marriage is made of. I'm 91, Margaret's 89. We don't have much time left. Maybe 5 years, maybe 10 if we're lucky. And every day I think about all the time we wasted, the years we spent fighting instead of loving, the years we were in the same house but not really together. I can't get those years back, but you can still have yours. If you're watching this and your marriage feels like it's barely hanging on, I want you to know something. It's not too late. Margaret and I, we came back from the edge, and if we can do it after 40 years of mistakes, you can do it too. Tonight, when you get home, find your wife, find your husband, look at them, really look at them, and ask them, how are you, really? Then listen. That's where it starts, with attention, with presence, with choosing them. Your marriage is worth fighting for, but you have to fight for it together, not against each other. Don't wait until you're 87 to figure this out. Start now. If this meant something to you, leave a comment and tell me which mistake you're working on, and share this with someone whose marriage you care about. Maybe they need to hear this today. Subscribe if you want more of these conversations. I've still got some things to say while I'm still here to say them.